Okay, so we moved from talking about biomolecules. We started with the smaller molecules. Now we started with carbohydrates in terms of monosaccharides, of which we said they were the smallest sugars that you can have. Now the other smallest sugars that you can have are called disaccharides. Now what is a disaccharide? Disaccharides are a type of carbohydrate that contains of two monosaccharide units. Now these monosaccharide units are linked together through what we call a glycosidic bond. So the general structure of a disaccharide is C12, H22, or 11, and you will see that they are typically composed of 2 hexose or 6 carbon sugars. Although here there are some disaccharides that may contain 5 carbon sugars. For example, if we get 2 glucose molecules, so glucose plus glucose will give us a disaccharide maltose. If we say glucose plus fructose will give us a disaccharide. This will be called sucrose. Then if we get let's say glucose if we combine it with galactose, we're going to get lactose. Yes, so these are just some of the basics that you need to understand about disaccharides. Now the types of the disaccharides we talked about, the sucrose. Now sucrose is also called your table sugar, and we said it's composed of glucose and fructose. And the other type of disaccharide that we've talked about is lactose. Now lactose is also called milk sugar, and we've said it's composed of glucose and galactose. Then we've also talked about maltose. Maltose, we said, is 2 glucose units or molecules. Then there's also what we call a trehalose, and there's also what we call a cellulose. Now a cellular bowse, just even the name, just this is a disaccharide, but it's found in cellulose, or it's found in cellulose or cell walls of plants. Then a trehalose is usually found in fungi, bacteria. So these are some of the disaccharides that we can talk about. Then let's talk about some of the properties. What are some of the properties of these disaccharides? Now disaccharides have a lot of properties, just like your monosaccharides. The first thing is that disaccharides are very soluble. They are generally soluble in water. Your disaccharides will be very soluble in water. Number 2 is that sweetness. Disaccharides are sweet, but they are less sweet than monosaccharides. Then the other thing is that disaccharides are generally more stable than monosaccharides. Then we can also talk about how disaccharides are digested. digestion of these disaccharides, we find that disaccharides are broken down into monosaccharides during digestions. Then what are some of the functions that we can talk about for disaccharides? What are some of the functions that we can talk about for disaccharides? So just like any other carbohydrates, disaccharides will act as an energy source. So they are used in the production of energy. So like for example, disaccharides broken down into glucose, which is used as an energy source. Disaccharides can also be used as a structural component. So disaccharides can be components of more complex carbohydrates such as polysaccharides, as we all talk about as we proceed. Then certain disaccharides are used as transport molecules. So they'll be used for transport. They'll be used to transport glucose and other sugars across cell membranes. Now we've said that these disaccharides can be hydrolyzed, or they can be broken down to monosaccharides. Now what is this hydrolysis that we're talking about? So hydrolysis can just be defined. A disaccharide can be broken down into monosaccharides through what we call this hydrolysis, and this is a chemical reaction that involves the addition of water. So this reaction is catalyzed by enzymes such as sucrose and lactase. Now there are some of the things that you need to understand. For example, you can get two glucose molecules. If we say C6, H12 O6, that's one glucose molecule. We combine with another glucose molecule. This will give us your maltose, okay, that is H, your maltose plus water. Now we are saying that a molecule of water is released. So this reaction is what we call a condensation reaction. Others might also call it an elimination reaction, because a water molecule is released. And now when one glucose molecule is combining with another glucose molecule, you find that a bond is formed, and that bond is called a glycosidic bond. Now let's talk about these glycosidic bonds in a bit more details. So we're saying a glycosidic so now a glycosidic bond, glyco just mean sugar or carbohydrates. So like in this case, this bond is formed between a carbonyl group of one monosaccharide and the hydroxide group of another monosaccharide. So there's a reaction between a carbonyl group of one monosaccharide and a hydroxyl group of another monosaccharide. Now let's take for example there's what they call lactose. Lactose is a disaccharide. Now lactose, we've said lactose is made from glucose and galactose. Now this lactose, it forms a glycosidic bond at 1, we call it a 1,4 glycosidic bond, and the bond is just formed from one carbon atom of one monosaccharide to carbon 4 of another monosaccharide. So you should know that lactose is the one that forms the 1,4 glycosidic bond. Yes, then let's talk about another glycosidic bond that you need to know. Let's say sucrose. Okay, sucrose. Now, sucrose is another disaccharide, and sucrose we said is a combination of glucose plus fructose. Now in this case we're talking about alpha glucose and beta fructose, and you know about alpha and beta is just the position of the hydroxide in terms of the ring form of a compound, where it's either whether it's above the ring or below the ring. Now sucrose will form a 1,2 glycosidic bond. Now you must know this because you have to differentiate sucrose from the previous one that we just talked about, lactose, which forms a 1,4 glycosidic bond. So these are some of the things that you need to know about disaccharides. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you very much.